Sup, boys? The name's Richard Fatschild, and my name is Impiles. I am very fat, but I don't give a crap. I look like as good as I did today 20 years ago. Anyways, despite being in my early 30s, I am still in school thanks to my grandpa forcing me to attend. You see, my grandpa wanted me to join him in the family business of jams and jelly. He claimed that I could only archive his dream by graduating from high school. That sure makes no sense, doesn't it? Outside of school, I was a world-famous lost media inspector, having been hired by General Asquith to investigate into the La Nore bootleg scandal a few months back. I succeed on connecting to the Sand Isle, and even Prime Minister Raib Minnels, and although Asquith and the DA refused to believe it, Asquith did seem interested in pursuing manuals about my claims, but was stopped by his efforts and superiors over in Washington. My skills will eventually be called upon again when a new Lost episode hit the streets. It had been supplied to a fat seal named Slimy Sausage. Sounds a little ironic coming from a reader, doesn't it? Well, Slimy Sausage has been given the episode by a local criminal, Valder Pomagov. Pomagov is one of the most dangerous and feared men in London's last vast criminal underworld. He deserves a caparombi for the Granny Dragons gang, and also does not work with another criminal organization as their debt collector. Pavlovov was a horrid man with a smelly temper. He was incredibly smelly as well as stinking of urine-filled urinals you may find in Shrek's swamp, while he makes you smelly onions laced with wimp rat juice. Something which got Jassepagai's drunk many moons ago, when there was a cat and another cat. I'm getting off track. I apologize for that. Anyways, Mr. Sausage complained about Manels about the episode, and on General Asquith's suggestion, Jin has requested my assistance in that matter. Sausage claims that the episode had Squidward doing some smelly things, weird product placements for products that didn't have any even exist, and even appearance from Glancy Drown. Drown was another senior of Drayden's gang, although secretly he was in the format of Federal Bureau investigation of the FBI. On one quiet Saturday morning, I sat on my front porch drinking from a mug of steaming hot poo. Yes, I drink crap because I was a fat piece of garbage, if you can't already tell. I sat on my porch waiting to be picked up by my escort, who would be taking me to 10 Downing Street. My PA Needle would be accompanying me as well as the protection. Nettie appeared right behind me and screaming, "Wreck-It Ralph!" I proceeded to jump and slap in the face 60 times with a humongous belly. I am scared of air conditioners, but what do you think of them? Nettie asked curiously. I sighed and heavily for 2 hours straight before saying, Nettie, stop asking such stupid questions. Do I do your job all right? For those who are wondering who Nettie is, he is my personal assistant, and he is very insane from a possible addition to Chewits like some other kinds of Winston Cho. Nettie also loves Rarity, a fictional character from the popular show My Little Pony. Something which Gaston would sneer at it, since Rarity was once conned him out of $80 million Nettie was meant to be driving by that day, but it was unable to do so after his car got pounded by a droopy dog named Moofy and his son Wax. Get it? A black car eventually pulled up on the pavement, and me and Nettie soon got in. Once we were in, the driver began to drive down the busy streets of Bistrols, 10 Downing Street. The driver was Mr. Carson Sinclair 5, and a former La Movie producer turned into undercover lover for a local resident of Father Chisty. During the ride, Carson keeps on going on about a new movie he was planning on making, starring Mr. Bean as the undercover agent as the Atlanta Corporation. Clay also kept eating wedding rings that he got from his shop nearby, and he had a serious problem. That's not even a joke, dear reader, so stop laughing and get Dr. Phil down here pronto. Upon arriving at 10 Downing Street, I made my car break down with it trying to get out thanks to my weight. I made my way inside the main lobby, begging to be let in by the doorman, who looked like Tim Curry and smelled like chicken tikka masa. Me and Nettie were escorted through Downing Street Manors, P.A. Dermont. So what is this about this, lads? Dermont asked me as I replied with Mr. Mantle send me. He was concerned about that a recent lost episode has been connections to the Lanore scandal till at least a few months back. Meanwhile, Nettie kept asking me and staring at the Dermonts or us because he really needs to take a dump. We eventually reached the outside of the lobby in front of Prime Minister's office on the top floor of the building. Also, I had begun to eat a huge buffet with Mitch Mandels had laid out for a reward coming soon. I ate all of his food and those garbage people, both Dermont and Nettie, just didn't get any. Why? Well, I said before, dear reader, I am one of the fat son of a gun. We also met Margaret Blaney for the senior member of MI5, who would be watching the episode with us in order to conduct on our own opinion for that matter. Mandels was busy, he was not present, and Dermont because he was busy attending a conference in Birmingham with partners of his. Dermont then left the scene, and of course Blaney proceeded to escort us to the Prime Minister's office, where she began setting up the DVD for us to watch. I looked at the DVD cover. I saw it was a SpongeBob DVD, and the cover showed Squidward's handsome form eating Krabby Patties while Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob looked on and confused with the background. However, Mr. Krabs didn't look like Mr. Krabs at all. Instead, he looked like Clancy Brown dressed up in an all badly made Halloween costume of a character. The back of the case showed a picture frame of Fred Flintstone dressed in a drag queen outfit. Blaney, meanwhile, had finished setting up the DVD cover on her laptop and proceeded to do some commercials begin to play. There was extremely word to say at the very least. One of the commercials had Homer Simpson making out with a steak, calling it its homeboy. Another one showed Mr. Burns and Smithers washing a manty, while meanwhile a very smelly music played in the background, and another showed incredibly nervous man being interviewed about a Scottish band and pulled pork. The interviews was 3 hours long, and it took them at least halfway up the century to even say one word. Meanwhile, the main menu then finally appeared, and a genetically picture of SpongeBob and Squidward. If you were wondering, there were over 9,000 options. I clicked on the play of the episode while licking the laptop for an extremely uncomfortable amount of time. Nettie then meanwhile had begun to take a dump in the garbage can while being unable to hold it any longer. It had spiked his iced tea with laxatives before he was left with the morning. Oh, I'm so evil. Oh, despicable me. The theme song started, and it was really weird. First, it was just the intro about Squidward and SpongeBob not being shown at all. It was very similar from that scene called Truth or Square, and it showed various priorities of the show's intro. The title card appeared and read, Squidward's Sickness. The title card then showed a picture of Squidward in his bedroom, eating his tentacles with the King of Hyrule throughout his bedroom window. The episode began with Squidward miserable at the Krusty Krab. Suddenly, some chick who came in with huge breasts, and Squidward tries to fit in with her only to get a massive slap in the face by her purse. Oh, if only if I was handsome again, Squidward said before sighing heavily. Do you want to be a snowman? A voice asked as Plankton appeared on screen, covered in dog crap. Can you make me handsome, Plankton? Squidward asked in confusion. Of course I can, Plankton exclaimed happily as the old plank had a real hard on that squid on the board. Aside from the Squidward being uncharacteristically nice to Plankton, there was nothing wrong with the episode. That was just still, of course, until Mr. Krabs has arrived on the scene. Well, for starters, he didn't even have Mr. Krabs, just Glancy Drown, dressed up in a horrible Halloween costume. Sometimes the old screen would change, and it would have Glancy being shown out of the costume. Mr. Squidward, Glancy yelled before continuing with, What are you doing conversing with Plankton? Squidward then explained the situation to Mr. Krabs, and then proceeded to tell him that Plankton was only using him for another cheap attempt on trying to get a secret Krabby Patty formula. Also, SpongeBob, for some reason, was nowhere to be seen during this exchange, despite that it is taking place in the Krusty Krab. Plankton was then rudely thrown out of the window by Mr. Krabs, and then yelled at Squidward to get back to work. That evening, Squidward began to leaving the Krusty Krab, but instead of going straight home, like he normally would, he instead made his way over to the chum bucket, and at the chum bucket, Squidward asked, So you could really make me handsome, Plankton? Sure I can, but I ask you why you want this so much. Plankton asked, as generally curious. Squidward then proceeded to explain that he had been depressed about his lack of love life since he broke up from Squilvia, who had broken up with Squidward due to him insulting her doctor, who was very rude towards the vegetable man. Plankton and Squidward got into a machine called the Handsome Squidonator 69. Gru's best erect nose then erupted from Peter Griffin's house. Yes, arriving at the awesome name, I know. While Squidward was in a machine, Plankton pulled up a really closely cheesy face, like the kind of pull you would see during the cheese cracker if you left it under the couch for 6 years, following the family outing that it was pesky by Mr. Lampert. Of course, the time title card come up saying 3 hours later, only it wasn't the narrator, usually French narrator. Instead it sounded like Raven Manuels. I couldn't be sure, however, but I was very hungry, so I had eaten over 9,000 pieces of toast for breakfast that morning, with 80 hours of bowls of cereal, and 60,000 fry-ups. Every small breakfast, I know, but I'm on a diet, as you can already tell. After the time title card, Squidward had been emerging from the machine and his super handsome form from the episode. The two faces of Squidward. Plankton then gave Squidward the mirror, and then of course later began emitting his face before Plankton cleared his throat very loudly, I might add, and it was very loud that it actually caused Nettie's ears to start bleeding. Poor old Nettie. Actually, no F Nettie. How about the side of the deal? Plankton asked, as which Squidward replied with what? Plankton sighed before saying, well, since I got you some handsome again, I wanted the Krabby Patty formula payment as my service. Squidward then smiled sinisterly, squinting before saying, I got something even better for you, Plankton. Also, Squidward was no longer as well as Squidward anymore. Instead, he sounded like Patrick Stewart. Really? What's that? Plankton asked before Squidward proceeding to shove him away from the chum bucket. Nope, not even joking. It literally shoved Plankton there. The following day, Squidward was being shown going around Bikini Bottom again, flirting with chicks with all of his real-life people in cartoons. He even flirted with Mr. Krabs, who said, Holy ducking! I don't want to plow that, Squidward. Squidward then met up with SpongeBob and the Saucy Pat, who gasped on the sight of some appearance. But Squidward, I thought you hated being handsome, SpongeBob said, which the Squidward replied with, Well, SpongeBob, the Xbox has always been my choice on a video game console, completely ignoring SpongeBob's question in the process. A time montage then showed up Squidward's new life as a handsome octopus. He spent next week having to try several nightstands, night outs, and out of town, and even went to a party hosted by SpongeBob at his pineapple house. A week had gone by now, and Squidward was being showed walking up from his slumber, only to find that his face had turned to normal, and that he was no longer like Patrick Stewart. What happened? Squidward asked himself while covered in the bathroom mirror. Plankton, who was somehow still alive, despite now living thing inside of Squidward, said, If you haven't shoved me down your throat, I would have told you that machine's effects will only last for a week at a time. So what are you saying? I can only be handsome Squidward for 1 week? Squidward asked. Before Plankton could even answer the question with response, Squidward had made his way back to the chum bucket. He stepped in the machine, and then he became the first of the handsome form. He then even extended the handsome time machine's effects, wearing off from 1 week to a month. How Squidward was able to operate and do the machine, while Plankton not telling him that anyone's guess really. Squidward then left the chum bucket to go to Squalliam Fraxons at his gang of smelly junkyard dogs. Well, Squiddy, I guess the rumors are true. You can really have become handsome, Squidward said, while squeezing Squidward's face, so then you can know how handsome so now want to come back to my house and watch Rick Harrison's new seal dealers? Squidward happily agreed. He went inside Squidward's private limo and was taken to the mansion where they proceeded to watch him play Star Wars Lego. 1 month later, we see that Squidward and Squidward have become quite friends, despite their own previous rivalry. Squidward has also proposed to Squidward in case if he had found someone he loved them to be who he was, not for his money. Of course, Squidward happily agrees, but just during their their picnic, the machine's effects once again begins to wear off. Squidward, unable to escape from Squidlam by claiming to have a doctor's appointment, Squidward then returned to the chum bucket and used the handsome machine once again. The rest of the episode continued like this, with Squidward going back and forth from the chum bucket to each time a month went by. Soon the years he began to pass with Squidward and Squidlam getting married and moving on to a small cottage just north of Bikini Bottom. Squidward's handsome looks got him jobs and even moved him to the industry, where he was a world-famous actor, even getting knighted by King Neptune himself. Squidward and Squidlam even had 2 beautiful kids, using Sandy as their surrogate mother. Despite all this success, Squidward had begun to go through external crisis. He missed the old way of his life with cashier Krusty Krab, and all because of his job, and he had no longer had time to pursue for the passion of music. He also began dealing out the guilt by murdering Plankton, who gave him the amazing life. Squidward could now never reveal his secret to anyone. Every month, Squidward would go back to Bikini Bottom on business trips, where he would go once again to use the machine on himself. And as more years passed and no one remembered old Squidward, neither did Squidward himself. He had become the everything everyone ever wanted, but now he despised of it. Maybe someday the secret would be revealed, and then he would be doomed to live his life as the most handsome person in Bikini Bottom. The episode then proceeded to end with the normal credits. I have to admit that episode wasn't really as bad as Mr. Sausage claims it to make it out to be. I found it both very, very silly and weird, also so really smelly undertone. So what do you think? Blaney asked as I replied with, well, it doesn't really seem to have any connections with Lanore's scandal, but it looks like Mr. Rabbies was wrong after all. This was definitely chilly. And what exactly I wanted to hear? A voice said. It was Rabe himself, who appeared in the doorway with Dermot standing on the side of his royal little soldier. So flat should, Rab said before continuing with, I see that you got your assistant to enjoy my episode. So this Rabe, I asked as Manos replied with, sure you did it. It was one of my best projects. Thanks for being such a good little chocolate digestive biscuit. So you were behind being Lanore bootleg, I said coldly. Manos then laughed heavily before saying, of course I was. That asshole Esquiff nearly caught me as well. Rabe then looked at me with a sinister glare before saying, as glad as I enjoyed it, I'm afraid, dear Fudget, it's time to die. Rabe then took over at Blaney and said, Blonde, get out of your suit. Yes, Mr. Manos, Blaney said as she stood up from her chair and took on a massive fart as she did so. It smelled like smelly smell, if you know what smelly smells town. Blaney then began to unzip her forehead, and of course another man entered the room. It was none other than Frank Barlow, deputy as the secretary for the Welsh Parliament. Trying to have all the fun with you, Blonde? Barlow asked as he too unzipped his forehead. Then Greg Blakerman, then head teacher from my high school, entered the room, and he began to follow his suit. The trio, Blaney and Barlow and even Blankton, did all remove the skin, and they revealed themselves as Sliverines in disguise. And now, with the conversation with the slaughter, Mr. Blakerman said as he began to make his way towards us. Not today, Matthew Williams called out as he became in dancing like Michael Jackson to a Lionel Richie song. Bakerman and his cohorts were so amazed by Williams' dancing moves that me and Neddy were able to escape after them. Rabe cried to his Sliverine henchmen as they were told to do so. They proceeded us through the Downing Street. Alongside Williams, we saw a back room with a Sliverine trio. Where is the shadow reader? The Blakerman asked in a patient tone. Better that? What the heck do we do, Blakeman and Blaney and Barlow? I asked in confused. I even got a better question. Matthew then chimed up before coming up with, who exactly is the Sliverine race? Barlow laughed before continuing. Sliverine race? Blakerman began speaking again. Sliverine is not our species. Sliverine is our extreme. Joe Carcel fraud, which of course Prasmaner Day, Sliverine at your service. These are the siblings Blonde and Felix respectively asked. So you're a family? Asked Matthew as Blakerman replied with, it's the family business, so how did you get involved with Rad Manos and his Sliverine then? What would the Sliverine benefit exactly from the association? Matthew asked. But then the Slytherin had gotten impatient with all his questions. The Slytherin began walking towards Barlow, saying, "Enough questions. It's time to end this charade by killing all you free." "Not this time," Matthew proclaimed as he jumped out of the way of the window with Nettie following closely behind him. But I was too fat. I was unable to keep escape that way. Thus, I used my belly to push through the last pass for the Slytherin and ran out the door. Me and Nettie were then escorted through the Downing city streets, William following the back of the car with friend Lazarus. This Martini was driving. We began to drive through the Yorkshire hills. At the hills, we entered a large house on the hill, which of course, when the sun hits it just right. Get it? You Pacha fanboy, you the Nino boy, and then I were in the small office somewhere is known as the Shadow Reader, and was waiting to speak with us. He asked us about what we saw on the DVD and Slytherin's family's antics, and if Rabe Menels was the one who connected some way. "It's always Rabe," Shadow says before continuing. "He used to be at some point lost episodes back when I used to write stories. Now Rabe's the only one making them. We've got to put in the end to him once and for all." Shadow then rudely dismissed me and Nettie from his office building and time for us to go for a jog or something like that. I proceeded to eat out the entire fridge that was contained with $20 million year of supply of food before forcing the BC network and Tyler Jameson to go down into town for some more food. Before heading to the fridge, however, I hear Shadow Reader say to Matthew, "Send Luca Barsi to see me. It was the time for the odds to be put into our favor." Oh man, this one was a really good story. That was a good SpongeBob story, but I'm sure you all enjoyed that. And that, my little pretties, was Squidward's Sickness, a SpongeBob Lost episode creepypasta, or funny pasta to be exact, written by Matthew Bumford. Matthew Bumford, I want to thank you so much for the story, and I'm gonna be honest with this story. This story was actually really good. Like, I did not even know this story took place after Resident Evil 4 Cursed Copy, and the death of Mr. Potato, so I'm gonna have to read those when I get a chance. But I could definitely say this story was actually really good. Like, why did I find it good? Well, there are reasons why I found it good. For one, the whole thing it played out was just honestly awesome. Like, I could definitely say it was incredibly funny, which I can definitely say. I had to take a couple takes at one or two parts because, well, one of them being there was a bug on my shoulder and I freaked out, so I had to record something over it. And another thing too is that I ended up bursting out laughing a couple parts, so that's kind of why I had to fix up a little bit, just so I can easily read this story without, stopping the pause certain much. Well, okay. I honestly found this story to be rather good. Like, the grammar of this story was absolutely beautiful. Like, I can actually say it was absolutely beautiful, to say the least. Like, there was definitely a lot of time and effort into this story. Like, I really liked this story. I actually found this one to be quite good. To be completely honest, I actually found this story to be really funny. And I could definitely say there was a lot of time and effort into the story. But, this story was actually really well done. Like, I could definitely say there was a lot of time and effort into the story. Like, the grammar was good, the sentence structuring was amazing, the paragraph structuring was good, the storyline, and even the whole flow of how it all went out was just absolutely amazing. Like, this is how a lot of people should write their stories, and I'm really impressed that some people did have improved eventually. But, I have my fair share of, messing up a few times in the story, which is totally okay, I guess. But, to be completely honest, I actually really thought this story was actually really good. And it's good. I'm going to be honest. Like, everything about this story was good. Now, I could definitely say I'm going to have to read Resident Evil Cursed Copy whenever I get a chance. I'll definitely read that story, because I think Matthew Bumford did, send me a link to it, and I probably just didn't get it, or I probably just didn't have the chance for it, so I kind of, didn't really bother to read it, but I'm going to read it as soon as I get the chance to. But anyways, get back with the review itself. I obviously found this one to be a really well done and made story. I really hope Dave the Useless narrates this. I really want him to narrate it. He's going to eventually laugh his butt off at this. Now, this is on Goshia for those who are wondering, and I will only touch Goshia if Matthew Bumford, Dark Cat, or even Ashley Armbruster writes me a story on there. That will be the only time I'm going to touch Goshia. But other than that, the Goshia Wiki is completely and utterly garbage. It's a garbage site. I made that clear in one of my discussion videos. But let's get on with the story itself. Like, I'm going to finish it up, wrapping this review up because this one was long. I actually found this one to be a pretty good SpongeBob story. Although there are other SpongeBob stuff that I've seen, this one was actually pretty good. And I'm glad that there was a lot of time and effort into the story, which that's a very good positive that I do have to say. There's a lot of time and effort into it. I really do enjoy it. And for those who want to check it out and maybe narrate it, feel free to do so. And this has been written by Matthew Bumford, by the way, so I want to thank him so much for the story. And I obviously enjoyed it, which is a very good thing. Alright, I'm going to say right now, this is simply my own personal opinion, and if you disagree with me, that's fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions in regards to these creepypastas, or funny pastas in this case, and this is simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of the story would have to be a 10 out of 10. Just flow out 10 out of 10. It's a really good story. Great time and effort into it. I'm really glad there was a lot of time and effort in the story. And I really do like it. I appreciate the good grammar and stuff like that. It was really well done. Helped out with the flow. The characters in there were just funny as awesome. That I can definitely say. And I can definitely say you did a really good job, Matthew Bumford. I really hope you do make more funny pastas like this. Like, this was just amazing. Anyways, what did you all think about this funny pasta? Or creepypasta, whatever you decide to call it. You all enjoy it? Did you not? Also, what we have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section down below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. If you're brand new here to this channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe because I make brand new videos every single day. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload so then you guys will not miss an upload. And if you're new to my channel, be sure you subscribe and ring the bell for notification. And like always, please roll the outro because I'm out of here. And I'll be seeing you all in the next video. Peace out.